Adenike here. Good evening, Mr. Jessie. It's nice having you with us this evening. And to every participant, I welcome you all. It's a nice evening again today. We are having another webinar. We already have our host with us. So with us this night, we'll be having Mr. Jessie Lopez. We are honored to introduce him as our esteemed guest for today's webinar. He has a remarkable background in the healthcare industry, particularly in the sterile processing and surgical technology. And we all know that without the CSSD, there's nothing we, the scrubs and the other operating department practitioner can actually do. Mr. Lopez brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table this evening, having achieved multiple certifications through renowned organizations such as IAHCSMM, now called HSPA, in CBSPD, NCCT, SGNA, and also ASQ. He dedicated his professional excellence in evidence, holding series of certification in CRCST, CHL, CER, CIS, CSPDT, and a host of others. And he has showcased commitment to staying abreast of the industry standard and best practices. Mr. Lopez's journey in healthcare began as a certified veterinary technician, where he spent 8 years honing his skills, transitioning to the role of a surgical technologist. Mr. Lopez held dual positions as a surgical tech and a sterile processing tech, gaining comprehensive insight into both areas of expertise. However, it was the world of sterile processing that captured Mr. Lopez's passion. This led him to fully embrace the role of a sterile processor. With a versatile professional background, Mr. Lopez's experience extends beyond sterile processing. He has also worked as an agency technician and served as an assistant manager, demonstrating his ability to adapt to various roles and responsibilities. Currently, Mr. Lopez holds the position of an educator and quality assurance manager, where he has the privilege of sharing his extensive knowledge and helping others understand the reasoning behind our practices in the theater. In addition to his professional pursuits, Mr. Lopez is the owner of WDYD CSP, a technician training course, and actively engages with the sterile processing community through his popular online presence as Steer That Port on Instagram and LinkedIn. His commitment to sharing insights, connecting with fellow professionals, and contributing to the growth of our industry is truly commendable. We are excited to have Mr. Jessie Lopez as our speaker, and we anticipate an enlightening and engaging section with him, where he would share his expertise, experiences, and valuable insights. So I would ask us all to join me as we delve into the world of sterile processing and surgical technology with Mr. Jessie Lopez guiding us through the way. So once again, I welcome Mr. Jessie Lopez to our midst. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. That intro was quite amazing. I couldn't have done a better job.
Yeah, you deserve all that, sir.
Yes. Thank you. I thank everyone joining us, because I know how hard it is to take time off from your busy days to learn and continue to learn, because that is my passion, is learning. I want to learn as much as possible, and I want to educate everyone and anyone who's willing to learn. So today, again, I don't need to say much about myself. One of the things that I do with Stir the Pot is that I like to bring awareness to the industry of what we do and what's actually being seen out in the industry, because it doesn't always, match up, right? I always tell people that, I compare our industry to the laws in our countries, We always think about obeying the laws, but there's people that's out there that breaks the laws, and they get away with it until they get caught. So that's why we need to bring awareness, because at the end of the day, what we do affects someone that we don't know and may affect someone that we do know. And then we trust each other to do the right thing, because we might be in the receiving end of the care of one of you guys here listening today, as well as myself. So doing the right thing is integrity. So I try to bring awareness to that integrity. Today's topic is more about communication and how we communicate with each other in the OR and SPD, which is sterile processing. Although we are on the same team, it often feels like our communication doesn't reach the level of understanding that we should have. So I'm going to share my screen here if I can. Let's see. Yeah. Hey, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So this communication is miscommunication of communicating, and it's basically, why does a turnaround take so long for SPD? And a turnaround is basically, or even a regular tray. SPD's function to the OR is we have a customer relationship, right? We service the OR. We give you what you guys need to take care of the patient, and it should be something that you guys don't have to worry about. We should provide a good, it's a give and take relationship. Is you require something and we give it to you. And that item that we provide should be a sterile item, and an item that you guys should just focus on treating the patient. So part of this presentation, let me see, I'm going to minimize this right here. Sorry. Okay. So the agenda here is to define the relationship between the SPD and the OR. I want you to understand the reasons behind turnovers and demands for immediacy. Discuss how our standards, AMI, ARN, and other standards, along with AST, is used in the process of devices used in a timely manner for immediacy, and outline the steps and overall time it takes to process a set from the start to the finish, so we can understand why it takes so long or understand the importance of the steps that has to be taken, so that we don't do any shortcuts when you receive that set. So what's our relationship? And I like to use this one. Women are from Venus and men are from Mars. We often say that when we communicate something, women hear a completely different thing, or men hear something different. We want it simple, and then women want a longer, drawn out excuse for communication. So this is sometimes like it's stated here, sometimes this pretty much rounds up the relationship between the OR. You guys come to us and we say, okay, a patient's in the room, we need this set right away. And for us, our processes in our head is like, well, do you really understand what it takes to get this set from dirty to clean to sterile and into your hands? We all have the same goals in mind. And education, execution of that goal distorts the communication sometimes, because you get pressure from the surgeon. The surgeon wants it now. You might understand the goal, but you have to relay the message to SPD. But it's a customer relationship, that we are a customer service department. We process instrumentation, and you as the OR, scrub techs, surgeons, you are our immediate customers. The patient is the overall customer, and our process is impacted. So the SPD, Jessie speaking, how can I help you? So this is how we answer our calls, okay? And it sounds familiar, and it should be. When the phones ring, this is how we should be answering our phones. Hey, what can I help you with? Because it's coming. It's a question, and it's something that we're going to need. But when the OR calls, when we call the OR, it's usually a front desk that we're calling. And basically the answering, hey, OR front desk, this is Jessie speaking, that's it. There is no service that the OR provides for SPD. We have different tasks, okay? So the OR has a need and SPD is tasked to meet those needs. Specific devices for specific cases, okay? That is our service to the OR, okay? Our partnership is based on understanding that. And if SPD gets it wrong, the whole process crumbles. So imagine getting a set and we rush through the whole process and you open that instrument set up and it's not even the instruments that you want. It's the wrong instruments in that set. You now have jeopardized a patient because they're in the room, excessive anesthesia. Now it's the wait and now it's a scatter to find that set. So let's look at an example, okay? Let's look at 5 of the same cases as scheduled. And ideally, the pick sheet or the item order should look the same depending on the type of case, right? And depending on the doctor. Okay, we have 5 cases and we only have 4 trays for that case. So that means we can do 4 cases back to back, and then we need to take one of those dirty sets, send it to SPD, and we got to get it ready for the last case. And hopefully nothing goes wrong in any of those first cases, right? So how's this communicated? Was it communicated to SPD? Was it stated, hey, that there are 5 cases? And did SPD say, well, you schedule 5 cases, but we only have 4 trays? How long are those cases taking? You know, when are we going to get the first one from the first case? Is everything going right? Are there any delays? Communication for this is crucial because, again, we don't want to wait till that 3rd or 4th case. And then all of a sudden we're like, well, we don't have the 5th tray. What's going on? So again, and this can be the scenario, and it happens almost every day around the world. A tray is open and something was contaminated, or it was contaminated in the room inadvertently. Okay, now we're down to 2 more trays. How long are these cases? What do we do? Okay, the communication is always, we need this tray right now. So we have to, I use this little picture of a butter knife as a screwdriver, because part of our job in the medical field is being critical thinkers and improvising. Yes, we have specific instrumentation and specific tools to do specific jobs, but sometimes we have to be creative, right? So when we need a tray right now, what does that really mean? I mean, should we know? We should know that it's physically impossible to have a tray right now because we have to go through the steps. It has to be clean. If it's not clean, it can't be sterilized or disinfected, okay? The communication has to be right, okay? We have to ask questions when that immediacy comes to us. Can we delay the case? Is the patient in the room? Are there specific instruments that's required in that set? Can I offer you an alternative? And then how long before you need that specific instrument? So why so many questions? Okay, so many questions. Isn't the customer always right? Isn't the OR, whatever they want, we should give them? Well, in most cases, yes, but we have to follow the standards and we have to think of the patient. Our indirect customer is the patient. So whose standards are we following? In the OR, it can be a whole different standard compared to what SPD does. SPD may follow a whole completely different standard, but they're parallel, they do align, right? But it doesn't matter because, again, the end goal should be the same. For most of SPDs, you have AMI, which is the Association for the Advancements of Medical Instrumentation. In section 7.3, it states that a device should be processed following the manufacturer's IFUs, which is the instructions for use. AORN, they guideline the nurses in the OR. Their decontamination section, which is updated in 2021, states the same as AMI. This is where AMI gets their standards from. So what is an IFU? IFU is an instruction for use. This is a document that gives you the step-by-step instructions on how a device has to be processed in order for it to be considered safe for use. This is a regulated document, and it's regulated by the Federal Drug Administration. Okay, this is what's telling us it's almost like directions that we have to operate our TVs, our phones, those little thick pamphlets that we rarely read when we buy those devices. Well, in the medical field, it's important that we read those documents, because it can, if we don't follow those documents, it can lead to patient death, injury, and in worst case, worst case scenarios, death. But it also can lead to lawsuits and legal ramifications. Okay, but cleaning is cleaning, right? And sterility kills everything. Unfortunately, we're in a field where sterility is not guaranteed. We say it is, we think it is. Okay, the sterilizer works all the time, or it's passing all our tests and all of our checkpoints, but sterility is not a guaranteed process. Okay, if something isn't clean, it's not going to be sterile. Okay, it impinges it. We're using the minimal amount of sterilant to get the job done. So cleaning by the IFUs varies from device to device, and even from manufacturer to manufacturer. That's what makes it so complex with what we do. If we're not getting instrumentation from the same people, we have to look at those IFUs to see if something changed. It can be different chemistry. It can be different processes. Sometimes it has to be a manual process. Sometimes it has to be an automated process. Okay. Again, I'm not going to go over IFUs again, but again, from the standpoint of what we is, it's our step-by-step process of how we need to clean a device, package a device, sterilize a device, and deliver a device. So, okay, just follow the steps, right? How hard can that be? It gives it to you, right? Well, here's where the communication seems to speak different languages. Okay, enter the need of now. When a surgeon's anxious, when a patient's on the table, we're trying to save a life. We're trying to make an impact. So anxiety kicks in, stress kicks in, and we're like, we need this right now. We need this instrumentation. We need this to happen, not even considering any other outside factors. Okay, things happen again. Accidents happen, drops, contaminations, holes when we wrap our items, filters can drop off rigid containers. There can be a lock missing. You get it. Sterility's been compromised, right? Okay, but we need this tray. How long are we going to take it? Well, it's going to take us to do it. Well, if we're following the process, the standard time is 4 hours minimum from the time we clean this instrument to the time we sterilize it. And that varies from facility to facility, from state to state, from country to country, depending on your processes. So just an overview of what the process looks like. Okay, the process is basically broken down into different sections. Transport, we need to get the dirty item or the contaminated item. We have to clean the item. We have to inspect the item to make sure that it's not damaged, that it's clean, and that it's functional. We have to package the item. We have to assemble it. Does it go into a container? Does it get wrapped? Do we use a peel pouch? Do we have to place it in a tip protector? We have to sterilize it. What sterilization parameters are we following? Is it a pre-vacuum? Is it an SFPP? Is it gravity? Is it low temperature or high temperature? And then we have to get it to the point of use. These processes take time. And this is what it all looks like, you know, in picture time. Transportation has to be transported by OSHA regulation in a container that is a solid bottom, solid sides, and prevents contamination of the environment. We have to clean it. Is it hand wash? Is it mechanical? How long does that process take? We have to inspect it. We have to organize it, because what's the point of giving you an instrumentation that doesn't work? We have to package it. Is it wrapped? Is it rigid container? How long does that take? Sterilization. And if we do decide to flash or IUSS, which is the term that we use now, which is immediate use sterilization, is it validated for that process? Then cool down. This is the process that takes almost the longest out of the whole process. And this is the one where the communication gap seems to fall at? How long before I can touch this item without recontaminating it? And then transporting it to the point of use aseptically. Okay, y'all seen the steps, but why is it 4 hours? Well, transportation. If there's no patient in the room, it can go straight back to assembly. This saves about an hour to an hour and a half. But we're assuming that it's got contaminated. We're assuming the patient's in the room. The patient is the room, we need to consider this contaminated, and that's standard precaution. We treat all instrumentation as if it is contaminated. Okay, the patient's in the room, it goes straight to decontamination, and this is where cleaning takes place. Okay, the item has to be placed in a biohazard container. It has to be transported in a manner that eliminates cross-contamination and does not damage the device. Where's the OR in relationship to sterile processing? I know here in some facilities, the OR can be on the 4th floor and SPD can be in the basement. So now we have to travel 4 floors, elevator or not, to get to SPD. That's going to take some time. In decontamination, we have to follow those IFUs. So is it an item that needs to be disassembled? Do we need to sort? Is it a whole tray that we need? The soak time, the rinse time, that can take anywhere 15 to 20 minutes. That's just at the manual sink. If we're using ultrasonic or mechanical cleaners, that's an additional 10 to 30 minutes. And mechanical washers here in the US is 30 minutes, but in Europe and other countries, the mechanical washers can take anywhere to an hour and a half. Assembly and inspection. We use lighted magnification. That's 10 to 20 seconds per instrument. Functional testing to make sure that if it's a scissor, it's sharp, if it's insulated, that there's no cracks in it, if it's a rongeur or a kerosene, that it actually can function to cut bone or tissue as it should. So the average tray assembly is 20 to 30 minutes for a seasoned technician. Your packaging, okay, containers required, rigid containers require filters, they require inspections to make sure they work. They need locks, they need tag IDs. If you're wrapping, it's not a one size fits all. The type of packaging wrap that you need, the seals, the labels, and then peel packs, making sure that they fit in the item. Sterilization, if you're doing steam, again, depending on your parameters, that's an hour or an hour and a half plus 2 hours of cool down time. And that's where this is where I'm going to show you guys a little video, how long it takes to cool a load. And it can be one item and it can actually be a whole rack. Okay, so what's that release temperature? This is where policies and procedures come into play. AAMI ST79 and AORN guides us in what this should look like. But most facilities have a +5 degrees of room temperature before you release, because studies show that 10 degrees higher than room temperature, the item will condensate and moisture within the tray is not a good thing. Okay, because sterility is not guaranteed, any moisture can harbor microorganisms regardless of it going through the sterilization process. Again, sterility assurance is 10 to the -6. That means 1 in 1 million microorganisms. It's viable that one microorganism is present. And if that one microorganism is present, that's all that's really needed to cause an infection, let alone if there is a foreign body in that set or anything like that. Low temperature. Low temperature is usually a little faster process, such as hydrogen peroxide sterilization. This can be 24 to 56 minutes, and it requires the device to be completely dried though. Any moisture will cause the load to abort. ST79 and ST53, which is the AAMI standards, talks about the adequate cool down times, and it can require anywhere from 2 hours or more. Low temperature, you can use that immediately, but again, it has to be validated in the instructions for use if that sterility modality can be used for that device. IUSS, immediate use steam sterilization here in the United States, it's actually a no-no to do. It's only used in actual emergencies where there are no other options. It cannot be used for insufficient amount of inventory is considered not safe for the patient because the item is still considered warm, wet, and it is handled while the item is hot, so you can transfer the microorganisms onto your hand into the package and recontaminate it. And if you're moving a warm package through a uncontrolled environment, you also increase the risk for contamination. Again, also it has to be approved by the manufacturer to be able to do that process. So here's a little video of an actual load in my department that I actually did yesterday. So this load was taken out the sterilizer at 5 o'clock. So this video is about 2 minutes long. So I'm gonna talk you through it. So at 5:15, I took this load out of the sterilizer. Now this is a whole load. So these are wrapped items. So as you see, the temperature on the top of the wrap is 100 degrees. But because wrapped items hold their heat on the bottom, it's 123 degrees coming out of the sterilizer. This is 123 degrees Fahrenheit. A rigid container is 145. Floor temperature was 75. So at this time, release temperature was 80 degrees. At 6 o'clock, this is an hour later, my floor temperature is now 74, 73, 74, but my item is 85. Now at 5 degrees, again, I would require 78 degrees to release this load. 1 hour later, I'm still at 90 degrees. Now, with a full load, you're not allowed to take any packages off until the full load is completely cooled. So even if I had one package that was cool enough, I can't touch that package. I have to have the whole load. So here's 2 hours later. 2 hours later, I'm at 73, floor temperature is around 72, 73. So I'm required to release this 5 degrees after. So the 73, I'm looking for 78. One package on there was good, but if you see the adjacent package, I'm at 85 degrees still, 2 hours later. Now, unfortunately, I went to lunch after this and I came back after lunch. So I'll show you this 4 hours after it came out of the sterilizer. So at 9 o'clock at night, I'm at 73 degrees still at my floor temperature. And if you'll notice, my packages are still above room temperature. This is okay to release at this time, but I'm still having packages there at 77, some packages almost at 78 degrees. So it takes an extremely long time to release loads. And this is where it becomes the problem. Okay, it can vary. It definitely sure can vary. It depends on the sterilizer. It depends on the environment. It depends on the sterility modality. Pre-vacuum sterilization and gravity sterilization, this is high heat. So it depends on where you're at in the area and the atmosphere pressure as well. So this can vary. So it can be, but minimum time is 2 hours of a release for a load. Okay, so altogether from cleaning all the way to releasing and cooling can take anywhere from 3 to 4 hours. And we have to be transparent in that communication. Okay, we have to let everyone know that when we have this item, how fast can I have this item? We can't just give them unrealistic numbers because the expectation is set. We have to give them a feasible number because here's the thing. You may give us the items, we may receive the items, but do we have an available washer open to be able to place this item in here? Are the sterilizers, are we having open sterilizers? So that communication has to be set in stone. And it's not just one person working in the department, it's several individuals in the department working. So we have to be able to communicate that to the team in SPD, hey, we're gonna need this set that the OR is requiring, so please make sure that there's a washer open, please make sure that there's a sterilizer open, assigning the individual that's going to be able to do the set. Are they confident enough, as everyone should be? But some people are better at some things than others. There's not one person who does the washing, the assembly, and the sterilization, unless you work in a department that's that small. Then the same person who's washing is the same person that's assembling and the same person that's sterilizing. So that person has to be very organized and be able to prioritize that work in order for the OR to receive a tray. That understanding can be transparent if we know each other's roles. It is a very good idea for SPDI technicians to live the life of a scrub tech once in a while. Go up there and look at the process, see the challenges that they face in the OR, because it is, being a former scrub tech and a current SPD educator, I know both worlds. And it was great that I was able to learn both. Great understanding as to what is going on, what is going on in the OR. Why is it there's such a struggle? Where do we fail in SPD? Why aren't we making it easy for them? Okay. Also holding integrated huddles, communicate between both teams. You know, hey, today is going to be a busy day in the OR. We have 50 cases scheduled, or we have 100 schedules, hundreds cases scheduled. SPD has done their part. We have all cases completed, but we do have a rapid turnaround that's required for Dr. Lopez. He has an add-on at 3 o'clock that wasn't expected, so we're going to need a specific tray. Now we know the communication from the beginning of the day, and we can plan our days. That can happen within a day, a couple days, and again, I'm a big proponent and a big believer that actions speak louder than words. We have to live this. We live this life every single day, from the OR tech, from the SPD tech, to leadership, to educators. Without clear communication, we fail our patient every single time. We have to first think about ourselves, because we have to protect ourselves. We have to protect our customers, which is the OR. And then ultimately, the responsibility is we have to protect our patient. That's all I have for you guys. I will open the floor up for any questions, any concerns, anything that you guys would like to know. I am more happy to answer. This is a little QR code with all of my information. If you want to reach out to me for any other questions or concerns, I'll be more than happy to answer them. And with that being said, that is all I have for you guys.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you very much,
questions?
Mr. Jessie Lopez. We really, really appreciate this. We appreciate you for this wonderful insight into the SPDI Tech daily rules. It's something we've not actually been exposed to before. And like you said, unless we work in each other's roles, we would not really know what each personnel in the OR actually does. And I'm actually an orthopedic scrub nurse, and there have been instances where I've actually just sent sets down, like, okay, I need this now. I'm doing a case currently, and I would need this immediately after this case, because I'm going to use it for the next case. But I personally have never actually thought about how long it takes, and then the processes it involves in getting the set back. So I think you're making me appreciate these guys more this evening. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. And I know every other person here too would really appreciate these wonderful insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you. You're welcome. And I would actually be throwing this now to all the participants. If there's anyone that would like to ask questions, can you please indicate by raising your hands? Is there anybody here that would like to ask Mr. Jessie some questions? While we are waiting for anybody to indicate, I have some questions for myself to ask. The first one I'm going to ask is concerning the loading of each case. Like, if you're going to do like an heavy load, is it the same IFU for all loads, or the content of the load will determine the IFU, or is it the machine itself that comes with a specific IFU?
Actually, IFUs vary from as far as with going to a load and sterilization, most SPDs and most ORs, what they try to do is they try to purchase all the instrumentation that has similar IFUs so that we can sterilize them and process them completely the same. Where the IFUs conflict and it changes drastically is during the cleaning process. That's where you'll see the biggest variations for IFUs. Some instrumentation requires specific chemistries to clean. It can be some instrumentation is moisture sensitive or heat sensitive, so we can't submerge it. And then again, here in the United States, manual cleaning is a really big part of the process. I know when a lot of my European counterparts visited our facility, they don't do any manual cleaning. It's basically a rinse and right into a washer disinfector. And I'm like, whoa, I think about the process about at home. I don't take a dirty plate and put it into my dishwasher. I take everything off. So that was really surprising. And the IFUs, when they showed me the IFUs of the European and the US counterparts, same instrumentation, completely different IFUs. And I'm like, how is that possible? So it varies from instrumentation to instrumentation, but the sterilization process, we try to purchase instrumentation that has the same sterilization parameters.
Okay, thank you. Then that now leads me to the second question, because if you finish cleaning and all of them have the same IFU, like you said, then that means you will do the loading together. So what that happens if you have a full load and then I need one set out of the load, and like you said earlier, unless they all meet the same parameters of like 5, you can't take out one. So what happens if I'm trying to like reduce turnover time and I need one set of the whole full load? Can it be taken out if the set is okay, but the others have not meet the criteria?
No. If the other set, so what happens is when a priority or you're required one set, we try to sterilize that. We should be sterilizing that one set alone.
Only, okay.
We wait for that criteria to meet. If it's in a full load, depending on the density of the tray and even the packaging system, as you've seen, with the rigid container was 145, but the wrap container was only 123. Of course, the wrap container is going to cool a lot faster than the rigid container. So when we do turnarounds and there's a request for a set, we sterilize that item by itself because we know we can't release it unless the whole criteria is met.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. You've actually answered all my queries tonight. And as I can see, there's no other person with questions, and I know they all appreciated your teaching tonight. We also have somebody who says I think is a guy. He's also a CSSD personnel and is thanking you because he has learned so much tonight. So thank you very much once again, Mr. Jessie Lopez. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I've really learned a lot. Thank you very much. That's the message coming from the person. Yeah. So thank you very much. So I'm handing over now to Adebusala Wokole. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I must say, Mr. Jessie, you've shared invaluable information in relation to sets, turnover times, because I don't really know what happens in this. Most times we call it CSSD department, sometimes SPD, because someone was asking the question, there's a variation in the name, but the sterile processing departments, most times I don't even know what happens. I just give them the sets. I need it and I give them a time frame. And you've shared a lot of information, very insightful. I believe that we're all going to build up on this knowledge and take it back to our place of work and let them know that, no, it's not like that. There's a lot of things that are at stake, and each set needs to go through all the process. And like you mentioned as well, that we have to treat every single set as contaminated, provided they were in the room with the patient as at that time, either it was opened or not. We didn't know that most times we just
put it back on the shelf.
We put it back on the shelf. We put it back on the shelf. We should
Unfortunately, that happens. Yes.
Yeah, because we're trying to do practices that support patient safety as much as possible. And I'm also using this medium to also ask, if you don't mind, that would you recommend removing tissues? Like, I work in orthopedics as well, a lot in orthopedics. We do all these joint replacements. I use reamers, I use a lot of stuff. Sometimes lots of tissue, lots of debris in reamers. And what would you recommend? Because in some facilities as well, they always tell the scrub nurse, you have to get like this chlorhexidine wipe or saline wipe, and just wipe off your instrument per each use, just to keep it clean or to help with turnover times. Would you recommend that the scrub nurse should be helping out with cleaning or just removing debris, just keeping it minimal during the case?
Definitely. I mean, again, from my experience as a surgical technician, that is part of our practice during the cases. I mean, you give a dirty instrument back to a surgeon, he's going to be extremely upset, very upset, especially when we're using like kerosins or Von Jors, that tissue that's lodged in there, or a suction that's clogged up. It's going to be a problem for the surgeon during the case. So one of the things that Amy and AORN recommends prior to transportation to SPD is called pre-cleaning / pre-treatment. This is the removal of gross soil prior to transportation and keeping the soil moist so that the cleaning process can be easier at the end. Just thinking about tissues and things like that, it takes a lot more effort to remove dried up blood and dried tissue off of the instrumentation than if it was already moistened and removed. So yes, that is part of the IFUs as well, pre-treatment prior to transportation. So removal of soils would help us out a whole lot, and we would love it. And thank y'all so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And at the same time, sometimes we have this issue of non-conformances. Maybe you are preparing for a revision case and you have lots of sets to open, and the only set that was a loan set, if you know what I mean by that, they got it from outside. That's the only thing you have at that moment. There's no backup trays. And then you get to open the tray, there's perforation in the packaging. There could be something, a non-conformance. Let me put it this way, do you have any guidelines or streamlined processes whereby you prevent things like that happening?
That one's a gray area. When loan instrumentation, and this is what we're talking about, right? Loan instrumentation from different areas that we don't actually own.
Yeah.
When it comes to loan instrumentation, that's where the care and handling it becomes a huge factor. Those instrumentations, usually for some facilities, their guidelines, they want those instrumentations into the facility 24 to 48 hours prior to the case, so that we can fully inspect them and know that we have everything that we need in there. And they're actually segregated and moved away from any other instrumentation that we use, so that nothing happens to them, no torn, no tears, anything like that, because again, it's a one-of-a-kind set. Now, it has been practices where backup sets are brought in as well, but again, that takes more time and more space. So the only guidelines pretty much is to take your time and definitely follow the processes. Handle that item as least as possible after it's sterilized. Keep it in an area where it's not likely to be contaminated or damaged in any way. And then during the case, again, loan instrumentation is one of those pet peeves of mine, because you get 100 instruments and you only use one. So yes.
And would you recommend the use of single packages? Like sometimes, like you just mentioned, a surgeon could take only one instrument from a whole lot of sets, and it's the cost implication for processing an entire set could be so much more. Would you recommend the use of single packages rather than complete sets for certain cases?
Definitely. A lot of times, that would be the easiest way and the fastest way to process is using single packaged items. And a lot of times When it comes to loaners, it's very difficult because a lot of times the doctors are trialing the new instrumentation, and they really don't know. The vendors are in the room pretty much guiding the surgeon how to use the new instrumentation, but they know exactly what they need, unless it's one of those special cases where sizing is required. But for regular cases and regular general cases, yes, having backup single items, because if something goes wrong with one, you'll have that single peel packed item with that single item in it. So yes, that's highly recommended.
Thank you so much. It's been a brilliant presentation so far, and I've actually learned a lot personally, and I believe everyone did the same. I was reading the comments in the chat session, and I could see that a lot of people dropped messages of saying thank you as well. So thank you so much for honoring this invitation. I believe there's still a long way to go. This is only one part. We're going to be reaching out as soon as we have information for other sessions that are closely related to this one as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. We've learned a lot, and we promise we're going to apply that to our own clinical practice. And we're going to get feedback and evaluation from this session as well, and get that across to you so that you can see how that has impacted a lot of fields. And for TORG, which is TORG, the power in TORG is about diversity. We have different professionals, the target audience from different walks, from different fields in the operating room environment, from different countries. As now, about 19 countries registered for this webinar, and they are actually listening and watching. There's going to be a replay that will be posted across the platform, and everyone can see and then give a feedback as well. So thank you so much for that, Mr. Jessie. And I really want to say a million thanks to everyone connected as well, especially we have the co-founder in the house and the director of operations of TORG, which is Mr. Temitope is in the house, and all the committee members, Mr. Hanaklet, which is the chairperson, Mr. Wilson, which is the vice chairperson, and the clinic and the TORG training facilitator as well. Mrs. Adenika Jibodu, she's in the United Kingdom. She's the secretary of the committee. Thank you so much. And I could see other moderators as well, Mr. Idris, Mrs. Blessing Ugu, and Mr. John Paul, and a lot of other members as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's session. The next session would be on the 6th of August. It's about innovative approaches to enhancing patient safety and organizational excellence in the operating room environment by Julie. Julie's in the US. She's a director of business management development, and hopefully we're going to have more lessons to take home as well. So thank you so much, everyone. We're going to see you in the next session. Thanks a million. Bye, bye, bye.
Thank you.
Mr. Jessie. Thanks for coming.